Once you have developed your portfolio, the next step in your progress is to start contacting companies. And I'm just going to tell you, this is really a hard part of this process. Sometimes I think doing the artwork is the easy part, but putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a position to have conversations with decision makers in the licensing arena can be really difficult, but certainly doable because we have all done it. So here are several ways to do exactly that. The first one I call the going shopping method. And that is when you are out in the stores and you see products that you like or products that look like they license artwork, jot down the name of the manufacturer, and sometimes they'll have an artist name on there. Generally, that's where you start. You start looking at manufacturers. And then when you go home, you can check out their websites, and some of them have submission guidelines on them. And there's a reason they put submission guidelines on their website. It's because they are looking for artists, and they have a very specific set of circumstances under which you can present to them. Now, just so you understand, companies don't put submission guidelines on their websites if they are not interested in art. So follow their directions to the letter. As a longtime client has said, we write these submission guidelines for a reason, so we'd like you to follow them and submit your work that way. They will look at your work. Whether you hear back from them, that is another question. But if they have a submission guideline, that is the easiest way to get in front of those clients. The other thing you can do is to connect through social media, particularly LinkedIn. What you have to remember is these manufacturers you want to work with they work for companies, and companies are on LinkedIn. The art directors have profiles on LinkedIn, and so make sure that you look there first as well to see if you can get a contact name and email. Another way that many artists meet up with decision makers in this area is to exhibit at some of the trade shows that are aimed at this market. But I'm going to tell you that is not for beginners. They are very expensive, and you need to have a really good, strong understanding of what you're doing, how the business works, that your portfolio is up to snuff, that it's competitive. Just do research on that and make sure that you are ready. In the resource section of the class, I have listed all the trade shows that relate to this industry, and you can start to do your research on those. And when you are ready, you can start looking further into those. But there are trade shows that are aimed at this market. And the final one is call or email the company and ask. I have had success by emailing when I can't find an art director or a product development director or manager. I have just emailed through their customer service line and said, politely said, hi, I'm an artist. I would really like to talk to someone who makes decisions about artwork with your company. Can you please direct me to the right place? And sometimes you hear back, sometimes you do not. But if you hear back, they just say, oh, sure, call Sally and here's her email address. Sometimes, that seems like a really old-fashioned way to do things, but it's very effective. If all this sounds too complicated to you, or you just feel like your skill set isn't there, you might want to consider working with an agent. There are a multitude of licensing agencies that do exactly what they say they do. They represent you and your portfolio to manufacturers in order to secure licensing deals. And agencies can range from just one agent with a few select artists or a large multi-agent group with dozens of artists that they represent. The steps that you take to find clients is essentially the same steps you will take to find a licensing agent. You want to present your work professionally, you want it to look clean, you want to have a point of view, and so you will present just like you would with a client. If you are considering working with an agent either now or later on in your career, you really want to consider why you would do this. Some people, and it's totally fine, you may not be comfortable with or are not capable of handling the business side of things, or you just don't want to. You cannot travel to shows or client meetings, or you just are not comfortable in that situation. and you just want to stay in the studio and make art. The third one is you are so busy with the work that you are secured for yourself that you want to hand the whole job over to someone else while you continue to be successful with everything you've done so far, and you want someone else to do that for you. And like I said, you will contact an agent essentially the same way that you would contact a potential manufacturer that you want to work with. You will check out their website to see if your work looks like a good fit with them. And you want to make sure that you're not competing too closely with some of the other artists they have in their group, because agents want to know that they have a really nice balance of artists within their portfolio, if you will, so that when they go to clients, there's no competition between the artists within their group. And some of the agents do have submission guidelines on their website to help you present in the way that they want to see it. Again, follow those. They want to know that you know how to follow directions. And if they don't have submission guidelines, they always will have a contact email, and so feel free to contact them with a short message saying, I'm an artist, I would love to talk with you, or I'd like to share my portfolio, and you essentially just have a very easy email exchange with them and see if they are interested in your work. Well, let's talk about how an agent is paid. Generally, agents are paid a percentage of your royalties on any deals that they secure on your behalf. Right now in the market, depending on various circumstances, their commission is usually between 35 and 50%, depending on who is paying for what. And we'll go over that a little more closely. Some agents take care of all the costs of marketing, trade shows, etc. as part of their commission, and those would be the agents that would probably be closer to 50%. And some charge the artist for those expenses. So you need to make sure which way they work. That's very important. You do not want surprises later that you're getting a bill for a trade show or travel or something like that. You want to be very clear on what they are paying for and what your responsibilities will be financially. I will tell you this is really important. You will never, ever, ever give money to an agent in order for them to represent you. So if someone is saying, sure, I'll represent you, send me a check, those people are not your friend. The agent is paid based on the performance of them getting licensing deals for you. If you decide that you want to work with an agent and you've had a conversation with them and they are interested in working with you, there will be a contract, a legally binding contract that you will sign, and it will be between you and the agency. And just as a reminder, you're going to sign a contract because this is a partnership after all. And you each have to have spelled out what your rights and responsibilities are, who is going to do what, and that everyone is clear on how that works. Now, I'm going to hit just the high points of this. If you do find yourself in a situation where you are looking at an agency contract and are considering it, please get the help you need so that you do understand it. I cannot stress enough how important these contracts are. You should be using an attorney, or at the very least a consultant who can walk you through the steps of the contract and what they all mean. A consultant cannot give you legal advice to tell you one way or the other whether you should do it. An attorney, of course, would do that. These are just the highlights of what you can expect in an agency contract. And all agency contracts should cover these things. Obvious things like how long the contracts last. Are you going to be together for 6 months, 2 years, 5 years? You need to know what you are agreeing to. And who pays for what, like we discussed before. Shows, advertising, whose responsibility is that? You want to know very clearly what the commission split is, whether or not you can retain house accounts. Now, sometimes artists will license their work and they'll have some licenses under their belt, and they feel like their next step for growth is to work with an agent. You want to know whether those contracts that you have secured before you signed with the agent, that you can retain those and manage those and keep 100% of the money. That is very important to know that going in, where they may think that, okay, you're turning everything over to them. And sometimes artists choose to do that. Like whatever happened before you sign the contract, it's always yours. But if you decide, I don't want to deal at all on the negotiation side or on the client side, I'm going to turn everything over, whatever that date of the signing of the contract is, then they will get a commission on your house accounts. Make sure you understand that. That has tripped people up in the past. You'll want to know when you will be paid. Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it 30 days after they receive a royalty check? All of that is negotiable, and some people do it differently. And again, that needs to be spelled out. And of course, you want to know what happens when you terminate the relationship. Sometimes things just don't work out, or an agent may decide to go in a different direction, or you realize that actually you do like working directly with the clients as far as the negotiation, and you want to take 100% of the commission. So there are various reasons why you might want to terminate an agreement, and you want to know what that's going to look like so you don't have any surprises at the end. So these are the basics that you're going to need to see in a contract. I do, in my book, License to Draw, we go into this in much more detail, but I just want you to know that these are the main points that you need to understand.